Hi, so you're going to time me, oh gosh, yeah, give me a 1-minute warning. We were talking about longevity science, and our big key central idea was that we were so busy arguing over which idea to do, we thought, screw it, let's do all of them at once. And the way in which we thought we could do all of them at once was to create an FRO to solve aging. So we want to have nice big challenges here. We know that the Foresight has already put together a longevity tech tree, but I think there was some disagreement at our table about exactly what should be in that tree. Obviously, these things are constantly in a process of refinement. But we want to have the ultimate goal being that people's risk of death does not depend upon how long ago they were born. So that's what I would call solving aging. And that's going to require a whole load of different approaches. To give a couple of examples of what that might look like and what kind of parts of this tech tree, we obviously had Chiara, the biomarkers expert, at our table. And collating some biomarkers data is just a hugely important thing. A big gap in the field at the moment is that we have loads and loads of experiments that have measured loads and loads of parameters in thousands and thousands of people, but they're often on some postdoc's hard drive in a proprietary format that's really hard to get through. And so one thing that we'd like to do is pull all of that data together, put it into an interpretable format that means other researchers can use it in an open access, easy to use way, and that could advance the development of all kinds of different things. A sort of overlapping aspect of that is that Pedro, another aging expert at our table, was talking about the idea of trying to create an ITP for humans. What does that mean? Well, there's an interventions testing program. It's like the gold standard for testing in mice. And they test dozens and dozens of different proposed longevity interventions to see if they make mice live longer. The trouble is that we've never done a human trial of a geroprotective drug, i.e. a drug that slows down aging. And so we'd like to have a similar thing trying out in a randomized way, in a proper, trial format, longevity drugs in people. And there's a lot of overlap actually with this and the biomarkers idea I just talked about, because the problem, one of the big problems in longevity trials is that they take a very, very long time potentially. Humans live 80 years. So if you want to demonstrate that people aren't dying, you need to watch them for 5, 10 plus years ideally. But what you could do is, as you do this ITP for humans, so you're testing longevity drugs in humans, you could measure their biomarkers and provide those in an open source way. And then we can find out which biomarkers spotted ahead of time, which drugs worked, and that would massively accelerate and inform development. And it would also accelerate and inform how the tech tree should subsequently be modified. Because one of the challenges of applying a tech tree idea to longevity is that we actually don't know exactly what the rest of the tech tree is going to look like. It sort of gets hazier as you go further into the future. And that tech tree needs to be informed by the results of the studies that are happening now. To give, I think, the second most popular, and I have a bit of a bias here in terms of things that we're going to pitch, I think we really need an advocacy organization in both a policy sense and in a public-facing sense about longevity. Because I've actually been a little bit surprised here in this room. I thought it was going to be a bunch of nerds, all of whom wanted to live forever. And that has very much not been the experience I've had. I've had to, a lot of people have had very important ethical questions about aging biology. A lot of people haven't heard of the field before. And that's just illustrated to me the degree of advocacy that's required. It's biologists, it's doctors, it's futurists, it's members of the public, it's policymakers who are setting science funding. All of these groups need comms about aging biology. And so, whereas we could use 10K to set up this FRO, to build out the tech tree, to create that sort of funding structure within which aging biology could be funded, I think another hugely important use of 10K could be to kick off such an advocacy organization, because that has the potential to unlock enormous quantities of money, because governments currently spend billions and billions of dollars per year around the world on various different kinds of research. And if we could convince them to direct just a small amount of that research to aging biology, I think that would have massive potential to improve the field. We did have a couple of other ideas as well, just to mention things that I haven't put in the sort of top two. I think there was a lot of debate about creating some kind of AI platform to summarize research, because there's obviously this fire hose of longevity research, and a fire hose of research that isn't directly longevity related, but might have some kind of longevity aspect to it. Maybe someone's doing a heart disease trial, and it actually turns out that it improves some other biomarkers which would be of interest to longevity scientists. But as an individual longevity scientist, you cannot possibly be expected to read all of the potentially hundreds of interesting papers that come out per day. So we were thinking about creating some kind of AI model to filter through these, find the ones that are relevant for each individual researcher. But I think the consensus, maybe this is my bias on my side of the table, but I think the idea, we found it implausible that you could actually do that for 10K, just on the basis that, this would be a generally important tool for all fields of research. This isn't just something that would apply to longevity. And if you could do it for 10K, I feel like somebody like DeepMind or OpenAI might already have done it. So that was an interesting idea, and I think it's probably something that could be explored in lots of other tech trees. We were also, 1 minute, we were also talking quickly about just the idea of using 10K to make crowdfunding easier, for example, so we could try and gather money from more people, from more small individual donations. I think my worry about that is there are some existing organizations that do that, and also the amounts of money are much smaller than you can unlock from the government. And what's the other thing I was going to mention before we get to the end? Some kind of something else that I've forgotten now. I think that's all. Oh yes, the other thing I thought was cool, was a prize to cryopreserve a small rodent. So we've already got a prize, obviously, for aging biology, so we thought there's no point jumping in. We've got an X prize, which is 100 million. They've probably spent a few 100,000 on the sort of groundwork to work out what the end point of that trial should be, what should be the objective of that trial. So we thought we can't possibly compete with that existing X prize with its 100 million prize pot, but there is no existing prize for cryonics, and we thought a cool endpoint for that would be, can you get a mouse, can you freeze it, and can you unfreeze it again? Sorry, I know it's not freezing. Okay, I think that's everything. Thank you very much.
How would you actually use the 10K to create the FRO? Or like, what would be the next steps?
I think it's largely sort of building the tech tree is a big part of it. I think obviously you've done some good work on the tech tree already, but you're going to have to pull together experts, and you need to pay someone, because it's not a small job to summarize the entire field of aging science. Having written a book on it, I know there's quite a lot of work there to be done, and trying to work out how all those things connect together is again, it's not necessarily obvious how those things connect together, and so that would require some focus groups, maybe a conference or something like that. So that would basically be someone's job, and I guess there's also the administrative overhead of creating the 501c3, if I've got those letters and numbers right. So it'll be that sort of administrative side of it that I think would end up gobbling up 10K quite quickly.
All right, wonderful. Thank you so much, Andrew.
Thank you very much.